It is hard to find a bigger fan of you than Mom. Through all the teenage mischief and the tough first steps of adulthood, she's been there supporting you every step of the way. This Mother's Day, show her just how much you appreciate all of her dedication with 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you get ahead of the Mother's Day rush, 1-800-Flowers is giving you an exclusive 24 for 24 offer. 24 multicolored roses for $24. That's only $1 per rose. With a bright and beautiful mix of premium roses in a rainbow of colors, these blooms are guaranteed to show Mom just how much she's loved. Multicolored roses are the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life: wife, aunt, sister, grandma. Roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak from premier farms and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 24 multicolored roses for only $24. That's an amazing offer. But you got to hurry because it expires Thursday. Just pick your delivery date and 1-800-Flowers will handle the rest. Don't put this off. Order today from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's what Mom would want you to do. To order 24 stunning multicolored roses for only $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. Golic and Wingo with you on a Wednesday morning. Glad you're with us. Our brains are refreshed and rejuvenated after another stirring round of breademology.
Well, I mean, you know what it is? You learn.
Yes.
And for those of you listening and watching, you take that information and you use it to your benefit at work, at the water cooler, win $1, win a lunch, win a bet somewhere.
Win a beer.
We're here teaching you.
Yes.
Not by getting things right, by even if we get it wrong, we still learn many things.
We are here for you.
There you go.
I think that's the important thing. We're the vehicle with which you can become smarter and win ridiculous bar bets. And quite frankly, isn't that what it's all about?
What life's all about. Having that
Bingo.
little edge, that little edge each day.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and we've got a couple of great guests coming up in a few minutes. Our guy, Mr. Relevant. We're making him relevant now. Or Mr. Penultimate.
Mr. Penultimate.
Yes. You want to explain?
Well, again, there's Mr. Irrelevant. He's the last pick of the draft, 256, but he's not irrelevant because he gets a parade at Disneyland, he gets a Rolex, he gets other gifts, so he becomes relevant.
Yeah.
What about the second to last pick, the penultimate pick?
Mr. Penultimate.
And this year, that was Austin Proehl, son of Ricky Proehl, was drafted by the Bills at pick 255. So we are making him Mr. Penultimate.
Correct.
And we are giving him a Golic and Wingo gift basket, which he can do whatever he likes with.
Toss
he can regift. We don't care if he regifts it. That's fine. But we are making him the star, not Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, Mr. Irrelevant gets far too much shine.
Right.
It's far too much. So we're giving it to the next to last guy, Mr. Penultimate. He is our guy going forward. All right. Let's get started with what's trending. And what's trending is Toronto can never, ever, 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 ever beat the Cavs. Cavs beat the Raptors 113-112 in overtime to take a 1-0 series lead, and they never once had the lead in regulation. Just the second team in the last 20 playoff runs to win a game despite never having the lead before the clock struck zero.
And this was J.R. Smith, finally a teammate that scores at least 20 points for LeBron, who did not have a good game, not scoring in the fourth, or 3 of 15 in the fourth quarter in overtime. Tristan Thompson, who started Game 7 and played well, came off the bench in this one, still played 26 minutes, had 14 and 12, did a nice job there. But the bottom line to me is this was the Raptors' chance to pull away in the second quarter, but it was a 3-point game at halftime. To pull away after leading by 13 in the third quarter, but it was a 5-point game going into the fourth quarter. They had the chances, I think, to make Cleveland say, all right, we'll give you game one. They could never shut the door on that. Cleveland would make a run, get back in it, and then LeBron had an unbelievably clean look at actual shot to end regulation that he missed before it went to overtime, where the Cavaliers ended up winning it.
By the way, I think the Raptors missed what, Brett? Their last 11 shots in regulation?
They missed the 14 shots 11. in the restricted area.
Yeah.
In the last, it was ridiculous.
And their last 11 shots in regulation.
Yeah.
I mean, close out a game for crying out loud. Or the Cavs will close you out, which we all think is going to happen.
Yes,
now.
we do.
Meanwhile, Steph Curry is still fine. Off the bench, 28 points. He was plus 26, so the team was plus 26 was he was on the floor, which is ridiculous as the Warriors beat the Pelicans by 5 to take a 2-0 series lead.
Love quite honestly, the Warriors, to me, are still the favorite, and they're going to be the favorite against Houston as long as nobody else gets nicked up and Steph Curry is fine from his injury. The Pelicans have played a tough game here. You thought Golden State would make a run on them. They never did. Pelicans are down 2 here. They get to go home. Let's see if they can steal a game or so. Maybe that's going to be it for them. And then I'm really looking forward to the future of the Pelicans. Boogie Cousins, is he going to be part of it? Will they be as good with 2 big men like that? It's going to be interesting to see where they go. But Anthony Davis has really, really stepped up his game this year.
Absolutely he has. So we have Kendrick Perkins beef with Drake, and now we have Charles Barkley beef with Draymond Green. Everybody wants to fight everybody. What's going on here?
This is interesting. Charles Barkley on the TNT show, he was talking about Draymond Green arguing with Pelicans Rajon Rondo. If two guys were going to go square off, it was going to be those two guys. This is what Barkley said. I just want somebody to punch him in the face. I really do, meaning Draymond Green. I just want someone to punch him in the face. I just want somebody to punch him in the face. I want to punch him in the face so bad. I'm telling y'all, I want to punch him in the face. He used some different words. I do. So Barkley first saying somebody should punch him, then he says, I want to punch him. So Draymond Green, not one to shy away, responded postgame. There's a lot of guys that talk a lot on TV and stand behind the microphone and on the TV screen. The fact of the matter is, if you feel that strongly about something, he's seen me a million times. If you feel that strongly about it, then punch me in my face when you see me. If you're not going to punch me in my face when you see me, then shut up. It's no different than somebody sitting behind a computer screen tweeting, I'll knock you out, and you know you never see them in life. But he's seen me a bunch of times, and he'll see me again. Punch me in the face when you see me. If not, no one cares what you would have done. You're old, and it is what it is. You ain't going to punch me when you see me, then stop talking about it, period.
Okay.
I'm going to say right now, I'm on Draymond Green's side on this one.
Couple of things here I would say. One, Charles Barkley is not just a guy who sits – he once tossed somebody through a window. He also strangled an Angolan in an Olympic game.
Listen.
Charles is not just a talker, but – to your point, he ain't punching Draymond.
Charles is a tough guy. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. I completely agree with that. But if he would have stuck with, I wish somebody, meaning out on the court, and that would punch him in the face, okay. But once you say, I would punch him in the face, and you are in a position where you do see the guy, it does sound like what Draymond said. You're like the guy typing on the computer screen, you know, who are saying you're going to do something, but you're never really going to do it.
Yeah.
Do we really think Barkley is going to see him and actually punch him in the face?
He actually might. But Charles
might.
Let's be honest about that.
There is part of me that wonders if he would, but I don't think he will. I don't think Charles really wants to do that. So you probably shouldn't say that you would punch him in the face because Draymond, I think Draymond was right in there saying, you know, he's not going to do it, so why are you saying it?
Do we know what the origin of this beef is, by the way? Do we? Brett, get on that. Etymology. What's the origin of the beef between Draymond Green and Charles Barkley? All right. Golic and Wingo presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. It's hard to find a bigger fan of you than your mom. This Mother's Day, surprise her with 24 multicolored roses for just $24 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us celebrate our guy, Mr. Penultimate. By nature of being Mr. Irrelevant, you become relevant. Yeah.
But he gets a parade, he gets a Rolex, he gets other gifts.
Right. The second to last pick in the draft really becomes Mr. Irrelevant.
Does anybody know who the second last pick in the draft was?
We do.
Yes, we do. And to us, that's Mr. Irrelevant.
And we are celebrating him. And that him is wideout Austin Proehl. Yeah. Royal entry. That's what we're talking about. You know why? Because our guy has royal NFL blood.
There you go.
The son of Ricky Proehl, outstanding wide receiver for many years in the NFL, joins us now on Golic and Wingo. The 255th pick in the 7th round. The next to last pick. Why we are dubbing him Mr. Penultimate.
There you go.
Thus making him relevant for the Buffalo Bills. Austin Proehl out of North Carolina joins us. Good morning, Austin. How are you?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
We are delighted to have you on the show today and celebrate your selection as 255.
Are you at all, when you heard we were doing this, the Mr. Penultimate, did you think those guys are a couple of idiots?
No, not at all.
Well, that would have been the right call, by the way. That would have been the right call, just so you know.
No, it's all good. I get it, man. I've been around the game long enough to know how it works, and I'm just excited about the opportunity.
Well, you certainly do have a great opportunity going up to Buffalo. They've ended that longest active playoff drought last year. How nervous were you when the clock was running down about whether you were going to be an undrafted free agent or someone was going to take you in those last two picks? Take us through that last flurry.
It was pretty nerve-wracking, just having a bunch of family and friends here. Just waiting on a phone call, on day 3 was definitely nerve-wracking, but, I had faith in the process, and everybody says, you just want to be drafted by a team who wants you, and, it's worth the wait. So just being able to go to Buffalo and play for a city and a team, that's on the upcoming and who has a really good past, I'm just excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunity, and I'm so glad that Buffalo picked me, and I'm ready to get up there and get to work.
So, Austin, we talk a lot about the players who went early in this draft, about their combine, when they went to the NFL combine and their pro day and then visits to teams and such. You had a season this year where you went through some injuries, so you didn't play the entire season, didn't go to the combine. You ran in a regional combine, but you ran a 4.4, which would have been the third fastest time, I believe, for wide receivers. So when that happened, did you start talking to teams? Did they start calling you? How did that process go?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy, to be honest with you, not going to the combine. And then after the regional combine, after I ran that time, I got a bunch of phone calls, a bunch of visits, a bunch of workouts. And obviously, when you don't go to the combine, you don't get your normal physical that you get, and you don't get a bunch of the meetings that you would usually get at the combine. So a bunch of teams want to talk to you, make sure you're healthy. So I met with a bunch of teams in my pro day also. And then, going from there, just had to work out and had to show teams that, ultimately, I backed up what I put on film in Tampa at the regional combine. So it was a pretty crazy 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks after my pro day leading up to the draft. But that's what you sign up for. And it was an exciting process. And, I'm excited I got to do it the way I got to do it. Just, not going to the combine obviously was hard for me, but, I got over it, and you got to keep moving, and you got to, keep your eyes focused on the goal, and that's what I did.
Well, the goal is now to make that squad in Buffalo. Austin Proehl is with us, the 7th round pick, 255, Mr. Penultimate, as we're calling him, the second to last pick in the draft. A lot of people that maybe didn't watch a lot of North Carolina football this year may be wondering, what kind of wide receiver is Austin Proehl? We had Ryan Switzer be drafted by the Dallas Cowboys last year, a smallish wide receiver out of North Carolina. How does your game compare to Ryan's?
Obviously we're both fast. We got quickness, just using our separation to get open and make plays and get the ball in our hands, whether it's a return game or at receiver, just ultimately making big plays and, moving the chains, scoring and helping the team win. So, that's what I want to do in Buffalo, just doing whatever I can to help a team win.
Talking to Austin Proehl again, 255th pick in the draft in round 7, second to last pick, former North Carolina player who in his junior year caught 43 passes and 3 touchdowns from Mitch Trubisky, who is the quarterback of the Chicago Bears right now.
Mom Trubisky's mad at you now.
So your dad played 17 years in the league. So talk about, from that standpoint, just your upbringing and how that helped your knowledge of the game.
Yeah, I mean, just, ever since I was born, I've been around the game. I've been in NFL locker rooms. I was around the grid, show on turf for, however many years in St. Louis when they were, won the Super Bowl, went to Super Bowls. And then when I was in high school, I was a ball boy for the Panthers, and just being around the guys and gaining that knowledge from, the best players in the world, just helped me. First of all, it drove me to get to where they were. And then second of all, it just, it made me realize what I was going to have to do to be in their shoes and be in that position. And, throughout this process, I really looked back on it and just, didn't take it for granted, just being in this position and, thanking God that he put me in this position and blessed me with the abilities that he did, just to, be able to sit here and get phone calls from teams and stuff like that. So it just gave me a perspective that, probably not many people have, just being around the game for his 17 years playing and 6 years coaching, that, not many people, really truly have. So it was a blessing for sure, just being around him and being around his guys. And, I'll never take that for granted.
Austin Proehl with us, our guy, Mr. Penultimate. We are celebrating him as opposed to Mr. Irrelevant, Trey Quinn, who will get his own glory, but we're giving you this because we like the guy that just missed out on the other thing. And you mentioned your dad, and I don't think people understand. I mean, when you talk about Ricky Proehl, 17 years in the league, and I'll tell you this, Austin, I believe he had 3 of the greatest catches in postseason history that no one talks about for a couple of reasons.
Yeah, he did.
Number one, it's the only touchdown in the Rams NFC Championship game against the Bucs in that 11-6 game. It was a one-handed catch down the sidelines. But does your dad hate Adam Vinatieri? Because Adam Vinatieri, the Patriots kicker, has made people forget what Ricky Proehl did in 2 different Super Bowls with 2 different teams. It was Ricky Proehl's touchdown catch, your dad, that tied the game in Super Bowl 36 against the Patriots at 17. Then Vinatieri went down the field to kick the game winner as the Patriots beat the Rams. And then 2 years later, as a member of the Carolina Panthers, it was your dad that caught the game-tying touchdown pass at 29 with very little time left in that game, only to have one more time Adam Vinatieri go down the field and kick the game-winning field goal for the Patriots. So clearly your dad hates Adam Vinatieri, right?
He disliked him for a long time, and then actually he finished his career with him in Indianapolis when they won the Super Bowl with the Colts. So, I think him and Adam got along really well. But, yes, for a period of time he was did not like him very much because of those events.
I could see why.
Yeah. And Adam, by the way, is the nicest guy in the world. We all didn't like him,
to be honest with you. I mean, that was it was a tough couple years. I mean, it was just like all you heard was Adam Vinatieri. It's like when you went to bed at night, you just heard Adam Vinatieri.
So, I was going to stick with you for a while. Going back to your phone call that you got, it's interesting. Bills GM Brandon Beane, he's known you since you were 8 years old. So, I mean, what was that like when you were talking to him on the phone, having known him and him knowing you for so long?
It was pretty cool. I mean, just, knowing, Coach Beane and his history and how good of a GM he is. And then obviously Coach McDermott. They're great coaches. I hold them, I have the highest honor for them and respect how they coach and carry themselves, and what they're doing, with the organization. So it was awesome to get that phone call from Beane and just, be a Buffalo Bill. It was pretty cool, just to get that call.
And it certainly got to help going into the situation, knowing how familiar you are, not only with Brandon Beane, but also the head coach, Sean McDermott.
Right. I mean, just, going in the situation, like I said, just, want to work hard, learn the system, obviously, learn from the vets, and just go down there and prove myself each and every day, go to work and help this team win.
All right, Austin. Well, again, you are Mr. Penultimate.
Yes, Mr. Penultimate. You have a new title.
We know Trey Quinn from SMU went to Washington as Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh, forget that guy.
Yep, but we feel you deserve some recognition, so we are going to send you a Golic and Wingo gift basket with a coffee mug in there, a miniature bus, Golic and Wingo bus, and some sort of shirt product as well. Is that cool, or would you rather pass on that and not have any?
And we'd understand.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I would love the gear.
All right, and again, we're okay with regifting.
Yeah, we really are. If you want to give it to somebody else, we're cool with that.
If at some point you look and say this is absolutely ridiculous, give it to someone else. We are 100% fine with that. But we're all in on seeing you make plays next season for the Buffalo Bills. Austin, thanks for being with us, man. And tell your dad hi for us.
Thanks,
okay?
Austin.
I will. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.
You too. That was great.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the fact that he admitted they all hated Adam Vinatieri.
Oh, how do you not?
I mean,
by the way, he was picked 255. You know who else was picked number 255?
I do not know.
The guy you're sitting next to.
You were 255?
255.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, 10th round,
because you were at 10th round.
10th round.
So I guess there weren't as many compensatory picks, and there were fewer teams in the league, obviously.
Pick 255.
I did not know that.
We both share that
number.
Why
didn't you bring that up in the interview?
Well, because what does he care? I mean, I figured I'd wait till we were done with him, and I'll just bring it up.
You have a bond.
Yeah.
You have a bond with Austin Proehl.
So he would just say, oh, that's cool. I have that number comparison with some old guy. Yeah. So what? I figured I'd wait till he was gone.
Probably more relevant to the fact that Luke Falk, the Washington State quarterback, who was idolized Tom Brady his entire life, was the 199th pick, the 6th round of this year, just like Tom Brady. That was really cool. All right, so we're happy for Austin.
Yeah.
And we're happy for Ricky. Obviously, it's got to be a great moment as a dad to see his son get picked in the draft. And obviously, you always want your kid to go in a place where you respect the people that are doing it. And clearly Ricky
he does.
Has that respect.
And we'll see. Certainly, knowing the people and have a relationship would help you. But there's also the other side of it. Take away, maybe not use Austin as a example here because he does have that relationship there. If you are a 7th rounder, is it better to be a 7th rounder or an undrafted free agent?
Well,
because this is what my son Mike went through, and you start actually getting calls in like the 5th round when Mike wasn't drafted. Now the teams that called him said they may take him in the 7th round, they may not, but would he be, want to talk to them about coming to their team? So he had a few teams calling about, hey, if we don't draft you, would you come to our team as a free agent? So then at least you hear from those teams, and you could look at the rosters. You can try and figure out where might I have a good shot to go.
You get to control your own fate
as opposed to getting picked in the 7th round and the last round in the draft and being at one specific spot. Because the signing of free agents after the draft, the flurry that goes on is
crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible because these teams are signing 10, 12, 15 of these guys after the draft. And again, you can kind of have a choice if you're sought after.
Well, it is interesting. You can control your fate a little bit there, but I think from a pride perspective,
being drafted.
A lot of people want to
doubt.
say I was drafted, but you're right. You have a little more flexibility and control there. In fact, Danny Amendola, who just signed a decent-sized contract for a an years in Miami, wrote a great article on the Players Tribune about undrafted free agents. Danny was undrafted in 2008, was an undrafted free agent signed by the Cowboys, was cut, spent 2008 on the practice squad, then got picked up by the Eagles, and through a couple of injuries, got onto the Eagles' active roster, and then made his mark in St. Louis, went on to win 2 Super Bowl championships, and play in, I think, 4 or 3 with the Patriots, and now, of course, got a multi-million-dollar deal. 10 years later, he's still in the league. Yeah. So if you check it out on the Players Tribune, a really, really great article by Danny Amendola, sort of his open letter to undrafted free agents, what you have to go through. Mm-hmm. And look, he's an example of just keep grinding. It took a couple of teams and a couple of injuries. When he got a shot, he made the most of it. So for all those undrafted free agents out there, just don't waste anything. No reps. Study that playbook. Just take every opportunity you can. It can still work out.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including our next guest. He's the proud host at ESPN 850 in Cleveland, and soon to be renowned poop eater. Aaron Goldhammer. Aaron, we'll get to that part a little bit later, but let's start with Cleveland. I mean, what else can Toronto do to try and beat the Cavs? I mean, they had the lead almost the entire game until the end where it was tied. They can't find a bucket down the stretch. They get the Cavs when they're gassed, when LeBron says he's burnt. They got home court advantage, and they still find a way to lose to the Cavs for the 7th straight playoff game.
Yeah, guys, I mean, the Raptors are shook. There's no doubt about that. The 5-second violations, the unnecessary turnovers, they can't make a 1-foot shot in the final 10 seconds of the game to win in regulation. They missed 11 straight shots at the end of regulation. And I'm not sure there is a player who owns a team in sports right now. I mean, I'm not talking about physically owns. I'm talking about really owns them. The way LeBron owns the Raptors. Even Drake, courtside, was coming unglued and arguing with Kendrick Perkins last night during that game. I almost feel bad for Toronto and the Raptors the way this is going.
Yeah, they had Kendrick Perkins and Drake had a little exchange of words at halftime. We'll definitely cover that during the show as well. That was Drake always making himself out there in the news. As far as the game, we know what LeBron can do, and we saw J.R. Smith finally be a teammate that scored 20 points for LeBron. Who else? Who is that guy that Cleveland feels needs to be the most consistent? I would say outside of Kevin Love, even though we didn't play that well last night, for Cleveland to really make a serious run at the title.
Well, you guys, Love has been terrible in the playoffs. So, I mean, I think if he is going to show up and play at an all-star level, it's going to give the Cavs a much better chance to go to the finals. But beyond that, you know, they just have a couple of role guys who they need to step up and play a little bit tougher. And I think they've really found something with reinserting Tristan Thompson into the mix. You know, it's been an incredibly emotional and drama-filled season for Tristan. I mean, you know, they were chanting at him last night in his hometown, in his home arena in Toronto, the name of his, I guess, current girlfriend who he has a baby with, but there's images of him cheating. Anyway, we know the tabloid story.
that's going on here with him and the Kardashians. It's incredible what he's done, though, in these last 2 games. He got booed in Cleveland, you guys, 3 weeks ago with all of that drama going on. And in the last 2 games, in Game 7, he saved them. And I thought he was the Cavs arguably, and I know this is crazy to say because LeBron had a triple-double. I could argue Tristan was their best player last night.
Well, LeBron, look, he said it was his worst game of the season, even though he had a triple-double. He didn't score in regulation. He was 3 of 15 down the stretch in the fourth quarter in regulation. That's never going to happen again. They're never going to win if LeBron goes 12 of 30. So outside of Tristan Thompson, JR finally got 20 points. First time this postseason that somebody not named LeBron James has crossed the 20-point plateau for Cleveland. If you're looking for someone else to be that consistent second scorer, not the little things maybe that Tristan did, but that consistent second scorer, who is it going to be?
I think you're asking me a question, Trey, that there isn't really an answer to, right? I mean, I don't think they have a consistent second scorer. Is Kyrie coming back? Can we trade for him
No.
and get him healthy? I think Love would be the obvious answer. I think we've seen him play in the playoffs long enough to know, and he's got this injury, this thumb injury, that's impacting him. I don't think he's going to be the guy. So they need a committee approach here. I think they need Kyle Korver to make 5 threes, which he did last night. JR to chip in, which he did last night. They could really use one of the guys they traded for, Hill, Clarkson, Hood, or Nance, to step up and have a game where they scored 10 or 15 points. We haven't really seen that yet in this postseason. But I don't think there is going to be one guy who's going to average 20 alongside LeBron on this roster in the postseason.
Talking to Aaron Goldhammer, host on ESPN 850 in Cleveland, and will soon be a poop eater. We'll get to that shortly. Again, he made the bet that he did not think Cleveland would take Baker Mayfield.
My parents are listening. They're so proud right now, Golic. I will tell you. They spent all that money on an NYU education, so I could be described as a poop eater on national television.
Well, you are what you eat. So, as I said, we'll get to that in a second. For those that may not know, he did not think the Cleveland Browns would actually take Baker Mayfield number 1. Said if they did, he would eat horse poop. So we'll get to that part of it in a minute. But first, as far as Baker Mayfield, I would not have made that pick, Trey, either. How about the thought in Cleveland? What's the sense of the Cleveland Brown fans? Are they happy with the pick or not?
Oh, I think Browns fans are so psychologically beat down that they're just looking for anything to potentially get excited about. So what I'm witnessing is fans starting to talk themselves into this. But I don't mean to speak for all of Browns fans because I think they feel so differently about this pick across the board. I can't kind of sum up how all of them feel. But I guess I will say this. This was an incredible risk that the Browns decided to take. There was a safer, more prudent quarterback to select that I can almost guarantee you would be better than most, if not all, of the guys they've had on the field since 1999, and that guy is Sam Darnold. Instead, in the AFC North, where we play games in freezing cold weather, in a division with giants running around at 100 miles an hour, the Browns decided to take a 6-foot quarterback, not because of any of his physical traits. I think they decided to take him most of all over the other guys, they have said, because of what they describe as his efficacy, a word I had never heard before this draft, which means his ability to have impact on others, his leadership qualities, his intangibles, that his personality is going to change the culture of the Browns. They describe his inner strength. I'm concerned about his lack of outer strength when he's going up against the Steelers and the Ravens and the Bengals and the tough teams that the Browns have to try to compete with. I thought it was a ridiculous pick. But now that he's wearing a Browns uniform, we're rooting for him. If this works out, it's going to be so much fun. The star power, all of that will be amazing. But I've been covering and watching the Browns long enough to know how I think this is going to go.
Well, look, for Brown fans, long-suffering Brown fans, you absolutely hope it does work out because they deserve better. They're one of the best fan bases in all of football. I've said that a million times. But you're right. I think a lot of people are like, okay, not only that, and I know they love Emmanuel Ogbah, but passing up on Bradley Chubb for a cornerback, as good as Denzel Ward is, I think you always want that heat coming off the edge. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. what were you thinking in putting this on the line? And I understand now, as Aaron Goldhammer is with us, soon to be world-renowned poop eater from 850 Cleveland. I understand you're working with a chef to try and make this more palatable. How do you make poop palatable?
All right, so here's where we're at. Number one, I can't die doing this. Like,
that's probably a good that's a good bar to try and cross. Yes.
All right, so we are hopefully getting in touch with the best doctors. We have great doctors here in Cleveland at University Hospitals. We're working with them to hopefully be able to either sterilize the poop or do something to the poop. Like, you have no idea, any given horse, like what diseases they might carry and what bacteria might live in their intestine. Oh. I don't know. I'm a talk show host, not a scientist. I'm trying to be one. But I got to make sure that this poop is safe for me to eat, that I'm not going to die. If I get a little sick, fine. I'm not going to die in the name of this bet. Number two, we have a couple people who are at least, at this point committed verbally. Jim Nantz, CBS Sports, has committed to do play-by-play of the poop eating.
So it's a tradition unlike any other.
Unlike any other. The Iron Chef is Michael Simon. He is from Cleveland. He has agreed to try to do something to the poop to make it a more pleasant experience. I really want to do this. You guys have been in broadcasting a long time. Sometimes you say dumb things on the air, and then they just get replayed again over and over and over. Comes with the territory when you're on the air a lot, when you do a lot of hours of this. I want to do this, but also the company that I work for doesn't want to be held liable if anything happens to me. Anyway, it's in the planning stages, but my hope is that before training camp, we will have eaten the poop, but we'll keep you posted on where exactly this whole thing stands as we go through it, because we got to plan it up and make sure that it's safe and that you're not going to be reading my obituary next.
Is it safe to say that this was the last bet you've made?
Yeah.
No, I made one last night on the Cavs plus the points with my co-host Tony Rizzo, and he owes me lunch today. So no, this is. I'm just crazy enough, Golic, that this is not the last bet.
Let's just say it's the last fecal bet you'll have.
Anybody want to go double or nothing on poop eating? Anybody?
Well, what's the double? I mean, what's the other side of it?
Cavs winning this series? Anybody in Toronto?
I'm good. We appreciate that.
No, you enjoy that poop.
By the way, I got to say, while I admire your thought process, the guy in Philadelphia just picked it up and didn't even care.
Aaron, I was going to say that as well.
He didn't even care. I mean, he just went for it.
Yeah, he just picked up the horse poop and ate it. I'm sure he's okay right now.
Well,
so I'm not.
He was well lubricated at the time, we have to believe.
So, how many drinks deep do you think he was? About 12 beers, and I just pick it up right off the street and go?
That's fresh.
Yeah.
Oy.
I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, man, just keep us posted. I think the biggest win in all this is that Jim Nantz is doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Nantz's career. Final Four voice, Masters voice, poop eating voice.
There you go.
Top 3 things on his resume: gold, silver, bronze.
You enjoy it, Aaron. Enjoy that poop.
Literally enjoy the poop.
Enjoy your breakfast, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya.
It's Golic and Wingo.
You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't. That's not the issue. You can eat your cake and still have it. See what I mean? If you have your cake, you eat it. That's fine. It's not that. You can't eat your cake and still have it. So there you go.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You never like somebody 100% of the time, and that's the 1% I hate you.
Oh, it's probably more than that, and I understand.
SportsCenter is brought to you by 1-800-Flowers.com. Hard to find a bigger fan of you than Mom. So this Mother's Day, show her just how much you appreciate all of her dedication with 24 multicolored roses for just $24. Guys, that is a great deal. All from 1-800-Flowers.com. You want to order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click that radio icon, enter the code WINGO.
Golic and Wingo with you. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, the ESPN app. As many ways as you can consume us, please consume us. So, Ben Roethlisberger, for the last couple of years, Steelers quarterback, going to the Hall of Fame, there's no question, 2-time Super Bowl winner, played in 3 Super Bowls, has sort of battled the idea of retirement the last couple of years. He sort of thought about it. Am I coming back? And that's been like a year-to-year thing. And so even after this past season where they lost in the divisional round at home to Jacksonville, second time this regular postseason they lost to Jacksonville, there were concerns whether he was going to come back, and then he finally said, I am going to come back. And then the Steelers draft Mason Rudolph, the quarterback out of Oklahoma State, in the 3rd round. A lot of people had maybe a late first-round, second-round grade on Mason Rudolph because of the things he was able to do. And lo and behold, Ben comes out now and says, I want to play at least another 3 to 5 years. So it seems like circumstances may have changed for Big Ben.
This coming after a statement from him that said, I'll still take it 1 year at a time and give it everything I have that 1 year, but that's what I feel comfortable telling the Steelers. A lot of it is contingent around, he has a really good offensive line.
Very, very good offensive line.
They did go through some injuries, but when the starting five is there, it's a heck of an O-line. And he said, as long as that O-line is intact, I feel pretty comfortable playing. But, yeah, he's a guy, listen, when he gets an injury, we hear about it.
Right.
He makes sure, he does talk about his injury and playing with his injury. And as you mentioned, he's brought this up a couple of times. And a couple of times after a season, and I've said all along, and I'll continue to say, and I think it's the truth, don't buy into anything anybody says right when a season ends. In any sport, I don't care what sport it is. When a long season ends, that's not the time for a person to make that decision. Let it breathe a bit. Get back healthy, get back mentally, get back physically, and then say, do I want to go through this again? But this is things we've heard out of Ben now for a while. So to me, it has just been talk. I thought he's got 2 more years left on his deal, I think, Brett, if that's correct. And I thought he's going to play out his contract. Yep. I know he's made a lot of money. Could he walk away? Absolutely, he could walk away. No doubt about that. But I rarely believe the guy that says, I'm thinking about retirement, because I always say, if you're thinking about it and you have 1 foot in retirement, you should have done it. But there are some that just kind of bring it up time and time again, and I don't really know how serious they are about the retirement, and I felt that way about Ben. I don't see him, I don't know if 3 to 6 more years. I certainly see him playing out his contract. We'll see if they do an extension along the way as well.
Ben is still a very good quarterback. There's no question about it. But it does feel like we usually go through this year after year with him, and now suddenly after Mason Rudolph is drafted, 3 to 5 years. So here's the question. Ben's 36.
Yeah.
Tom is 41, or will be 41 in August. Brett, will Ben turn 37 this year, or has he already turned 36? So here's the question: who do you think's playing longer?
Well, that's a really good question.
Who really think's playing longer? Brett, we have an answer to that.
He turned 36 in March.
So he just turned 36. So he's basically 5 years.
5 years younger
than Tom Brady.
Who
do you really think's going to play longer?
He has 2 more years left on his deal, and the Steelers were talking about the possibility of talking to him with an extension. That's a really good question.
I mean, it is interesting because I really TB12, the avocado ice cream, all that kind of stuff.
I think Tom has 2 more years this year and next year. I think at the type of game that he plays to where he feels he wants to continue playing,
which means he'll be at an MVP level at 42, which would be ungodly.
Which would be incredible. So I would think Ben could play longer than that because I don't really buy into as I'm thinking about retiring year after year thing.
But he takes more abuse than Tom.
He does.
He does because of the way
Tom
he plays.
hits the ground, Ben takes the hit, and then shakes it off.
He's pulled the Peyton. Yep. I'm down now.
Yep.
I'm good with it.
I'll get you the next play.
Exactly. We'll get the next series. Live to fight another day. We'll see which one plays longer. Coming up, we'll talk to the guy who maybe made the solidest pick in the draft. That's ahead. It is hard to find a bigger fan of you than Mom. Through all the teenage mischief and the tough first steps of adulthood, she's been there supporting you every step of the way. This Mother's Day, show her just how much you appreciate all of her dedication with 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you get ahead of the Mother's Day rush, 1-800-Flowers is giving you an exclusive 24 for 24 offer. 24 multicolored roses for $24. That's only $1 per rose. With a bright and beautiful mix of premium roses in a rainbow of colors, these blooms are guaranteed to show Mom just how much she's loved. Multicolored roses are the perfect way to surprise all of the moms in your life: wife, aunt, sister, grandma. Roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak from premier farms and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 24 multicolored roses for only $24. That's an amazing offer. But you got to hurry because it expires Thursday. Just pick your delivery date and 1-800-Flowers will handle the rest. Don't put this off. Order today from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's what Mom would want you to do. To order 24 stunning multicolored roses for only $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Wingo. Golic and Wingo with you, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Sam Darnold surprisingly fell to the Jets with the 3rd overall pick, and I think they are just fine with that.
Yeah, I think they are as well. Again, most people thought it was going to be Darnold or Josh Allen going number 1 to Cleveland. We heard in a Shefty tweet the morning of the draft that may lean toward Baker Mayfield. None of us really believed it until we heard the words out of Roger Goodell's mouth that night. But there it was, then Sam Darnold able to go to the Jets.
And we'll talk to Jets GM Mike Maccagnan in 5 minutes. We'll get his thoughts not only on Darnold, but also I think one of the more interesting players that they selected in this draft, who comes to the Jets by way of Toronto, Canada, and a very, very small school called Fort Hays State.
Yep.
A very, very interesting journey for that man. We'll get to all of that in just a little bit, but first we'll do what's trending and what is, always will be, it seems, in terms of trending. The trend is the Cavs will beat the Raptors in the postseason. Somehow, some way, they won their 7th straight playoff game against the Raptors last night, winning 113-112 in overtime, despite, Mike, they never had the lead before overtime.
Yeah, what they were able to do in this one, and I thought this was how game one would go, that if the Raptors could get a big enough lead, you might have Cleveland say, okay, we'll give you game one. They had a double-digit lead in the second quarter. They could have extended it to 3-point game at halftime. They had a 13-point lead in the third quarter. Could they extend it going into the fourth quarter? That would make Cleveland think about it a little bit. No, Cleveland's only down 5 going into the fourth quarter. Last shot in regulation and of overtime, the ball was in the hands of Fred VanVleet and not DeMar DeRozan. So you can credit some certainly from Cleveland to forcing the issue, but Toronto's got to be able to get it in the hands of the guy they want shooting the ball. Again, a mind game as well as a physical game on the court. I can't imagine. And as much as the players, Trey, up until game 2 in Toronto, are going to try and say it means nothing. Next game, it's a new game. We work past it. We get the win here. We're okay. Yeah. They're going to try and talk themselves into it. And they should. They should have the confidence they can go out and win that game. But during that game, man, when it's happened time and time again, it's hard to get out of your brain just what might go wrong.
Well, you know what I say to that people think it's just a game? I think that's a lot of Bull Goldhammer is what I think. That's a lot of Bullhammer right there. Because you had teams that you played against in the NFL, you knew they just had your number.
Yep,
right?
Washington had our number.
And it went in during the game, middle of the game, and after the game.
And we had the Giants number for a while, so you just wondered when the shoe was going to fall, what was going to happen. Occasionally you do win the game, but it doesn't mean you completely get over that. Toronto won't get over this until they actually beat LeBron James in a series, something they haven't done.
And again, LeBron struggled down the stretch. He was 3 of 15 in the fourth quarter in overtime, didn't score a point in overtime, but the Raptors were 0-11 from the field in the fourth quarter. Couldn't find a way to win down the stretch. Awful, 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 awful. Meanwhile, Justin Verlander was as good as Justin Verlander could be. Tied a career high with 14 strikeouts over 8 innings, and amazingly, it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. Gary Sanchez hits a 3-run shot in the 9th inning. There's man on second and third and 1 out. So Gary Sanchez had a hot bat as of late. This is third home run, big home run, in 6 days. The thought maybe Giles put him on at first, get him the possibility of a double play because it's second and third again with 1 out. They don't. He goes yard. Giles punches himself in the face on the way to the dugout. He literally punched himself in the face. A closed fist, punched himself in the face. It was absolutely amazing. But, Sanchez now has done this with some big hits. Before the game, he had to deal with the situation where Sonny Gray, one of the pitchers he catches for, Gray had said he feels more comfortable with the backup catcher catching for him. So he was going through that a little bit. And certainly he said, I'll do whatever the team needs. And right now, the team likes and needs when he hits the ball out of the park.
That's exactly right. By the way, great researcher, Brett, the creator of Brettomology, also went through the numbers on the Sanchez situation, what would happen if you walked him. Brett, would you like to explain?
So it happens a lot where a team will walk a guy intentionally to load the bases so they get the double play ball. And historically, you have a better chance of preventing all runs if you have the bases loaded and 1 out versus second and third and 1 out. So they should have walked him. It's a 68% chance of a run scoring, second and third, 1 out. 66% bases loaded, 1 out.
Although it's just 2%. I mean, 2%. That seems almost identical.
But hey, in this world of going by the numbers, huh?
Right? You're always supposed to do what's smarter.
Yeah.
Well, remember,
plus you got to take into consideration who's at the plate.
Yeah.
This guy hits the ball far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put him on first so he can't.
Yeah. To that point, do you remember? I think it was Buck Showalter when he was the Diamondbacks head coach. Infamously walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded to bring in a run to tie the game, thus avoiding Barry Bonds hitting a home run or a double to win the game in that situation. I can't remember if the Diamondbacks went on to win that game or not. Brett, do some research things. We'll figure it out. We appreciate you. And then speaking of a team that has always been in the other team's grill, the Penguins have always owned the Caps in the postseason. That's just the way it's been. Caps have never, under Alex Ovechkin's career, made it to the conference finals. But right now, thanks to an Ovi goal with just about a minute left in the game, They take the lead in the series 2-1 and beat the Pens 4-3.
Yeah, Nicholas Backstrom, a nice job. There was a 2-on-1, waiting till the last second to pass it right into the front of the net for Ovechkin. Puts it in to get that win, with, just as you mentioned, just over a minute to go. Up 2-1 in the series, but still, again, this is one of those situations. Can the Capitals hang on?
Right.
You know, they've lost this in the past, and they certainly have done it to the Penguins, who definitely have their number. So will Pittsburgh come back in this one? We'll see. But right now, the Caps, congrats, 2-1 lead. The Jets get a 7-4 win over the Predators last night for a 2-1 series lead as well. They scored 3 goals as the score was tied 4-4 in the last 5 minutes to get this win.
Again, we've been down this road before. It's amazing that a guy like Ovechkin has never made it to the conference finals in his career, but he's been great. 8 goals in 9 postseason games so far this run. We'll see if it continues or see if the Pens come back as they try to win their 3rd straight Stanley Cup. The last team to do that was the New York Islanders in the late 80s, who won 4 in a row before the Oiler dynasty with Wayne Gretzky was in full effect. Okay, so the draft was a huge success across the board in terms of television ratings, and every team believes their draft was a huge success, but we're delighted to be joined now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by a guy who really may have hit the home run in the first round of the draft with the way things fell to him, and that's the Jets GM Mike Maccagnan. Mike, thanks for being with us. What were the realistic expectations you thought that you might be able to take Sam Darnold with the 3rd overall selection?
Well, I think as when we first made the trade, we always knew there was, a possibility, but I think we always kind of felt, at least at that point in time, that far out, that Sam seemed to be kind of mocked or locked in at 1, and there was obviously talk that the Giants may consider a quarterback at 2. So, when we made the trade, we put a lot of thought into it. I spent quite a bit of time with Brian Heimringer, who was kind of my right hand over here, kind of figuring out different scenarios after Kirk Cousins went to Minnesota, and we decided to act very proactively and do the deal. When we did it, we thought in terms of scenarios that presented themselves, we knew it was a possibility. We didn't think it was at that time a very high possibility, but of course, as we got closer to the draft, and really the day of, was probably the first time I started thinking realistically that there was a chance that Sam may not go 1, but then there's always a chance he would go at 2, and then eventually drop to us at 3, and we felt very happy to draft him there.
Before that even happened, were there calls to you or to you guys to someone else as far as moving either up or back from that pick?
I think, Mike, when we actually made the trade and positioned ourselves, I think everybody sort of figured, hey, we were fairly well entrenched at that 3rd spot, and we were actually quite happy to sit and wait and see what fell to us. We actually had some other players at the top of the draft we felt good about, so when we made the trade, we didn't necessarily make it kind of hoping something would happen. We felt very good about our potential options there. But for the most part, we had made some phone calls prior to the draft. When I actually got on the draft, I wasn't really reaching out to see if talking to anybody about moving. I think everybody probably assumed since we moved to 3 that we were pretty well set and weren't going to move out of that spot. So, we didn't have a lot of phone play at that point in time. We did have a little bit kind of going, prior to it, just to make sure anybody above us was going to do something or not. And we always kind of got the impression talking with Cleveland that they were fairly well entrenched to take a player. And of course, the Giants we're kind of going to wait and see what happened with them, because we had some feeling that they were, who they kind of liked, and then we're going to see how the thing would play itself out. So
I'm curious, when it's your turn or close to your turn and you're on the clock or right near it, do you, and your phone rings, certainly you can control if you call out, but if your phone rings, do you ever not answer it?
No, you generally answer the phone when it rings in the draft room, because you truly never know what may come across the table or in terms of options. But no, you definitely take all phone calls. You don't necessarily just let it ring and go from there, because it's funny. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a draft room before, but before a lot of teams, what we do is we'll be 5 or 10 picks out. Maybe there's a group of players we kind of like, or maybe one player we want to go chase. So of course you make phone calls to try to see well in advance to see if you can move up a little bit and see what the cost would be. But at the same time, and what we do and a lot of other teams do, is we call teams behind us if we're looking to maybe have options to move out of the pick if for some reason. And I've been in draft rooms where literally the 2 or 3 players you really like get taken right before you, and then you're kind of left with maybe an option you could probably get a few picks later. So you usually work the phones quite a bit, but generally is if literally when your pick is either on the clock. I mean, historically, I think almost every pick I've been associated with, at some point in time, the phone rings literally when you're on the clock. Even in the 7th round this year, I got a call from somebody who wanted to kind of move potentially back and into the round. And of course, we were not really that interested. We were kind of done for the day and moved on. But it does ring all the time, basically. Jets
GM Mike Maccagnan with us this morning. Listen, a lot of discussion was made when you guys the moved up, Mike, from 6 to 3. Basically, when you made that move, you had to sort of be comfortable with the potential of maybe 1, 2, or 3 different guys or 3 different quarterbacks being there at the third selection if the Giants were going to take a quarterback as well at number 2. And you were okay with one of 3 different quarterbacks in that situation?
When we made the trade, and I think the one thing, maybe I haven't talked about this too much, but we've done quite a bit of work on these guys, literally starting from last spring. Obviously we get to list and know who the senior prospects are and stuff like that. But we do put quite a bit of work into this, and we felt very good. I think the way it actually happened, like when we were sitting there in pro free agency, and we were obviously, as everybody's aware, that we're pursuing Kirk Cousins. When we missed out on Kirk, our plan was always to, next option then is maybe address the position in the draft. And of course, we had done quite a bit of work, knowing what the draft class looked like, knowing who the names would potentially be in the top 2 or 3 picks of the draft. And then we figured out the compensation part. And I wanted I've been in a lot of drafts over the years, and I know how sometimes when you're on the clock or somebody starts falling in the draft, that suddenly the price to move up becomes more expensive. We actually paid a pretty good price to move from 6 to 3, but I always wanted to hold on to our first round pick going forward. And to do that, it really kind of positions us at the 3rd spot. But really, I think it's been documented that after after free agency went down and Kirk went to Minnesota, I literally went to the Oklahoma and the UCLA pro days, and I'd already seen quite a bit of Josh Allen, and also was aware of Sam Darnold. So, we felt pretty good sitting there at 3 and seeing what would kind of potentially fall to us.
Well, it certainly worked out, as you got a guy whose nickname the DNA falls to you, as Jets GM Mike Maccagnan with us. Listen, I want to get what you love most about Sam, but I want to tell you what I love most about Darnold in this process. He was the second highly recruited quarterback to sign at USC. And normally after one goes, the other quarterback wants to go somewhere else because he wants to be the guy. And when Sam signed up at USC after Ricky Town had already committed there, he went to Clay Helton, the offensive coordinator, looked him dead in the eye and said, "Hey, best guy plays, right?" And Clay said, "Absolutely." And by the time game 1 had rolled around, Ricky was transferring and Sam was going to be entrenched as a future. What did you love the most about Sam Darnold in this process?
Well, I think there's a lot of things, and I think, you guys probably know this, having been around the league and players, there's a lot that goes into quarterbacks and with every player, and it's, obviously skill and ability, in which we thought Sam has, a lot of talent and potential. We watched him, obviously, through his both seasons at USC. We saw him, with maybe a little bit stronger senior class in 2016. We saw him with maybe playing with some younger players in 17. And we just saw how he kind of, made things happen, made plays on and off schedule, worked inside, outside the pocket. We thought he had the ability to see the field at, 3 levels, which is, difficult for a lot of quarterbacks to do, and really make plays and make things happen. But all that being said, quite frankly, the other part we do, and this is no different than any other team in the NFL, whether it's a quarterback or any other position, but, you look at them from a personality and intangible standpoint, because you're really investing in somebody, and you're trying to invest in somebody you think and try to guess that they're going to try to fill the potential you see them having. And that's, so with Sam, it was kind of a culmination of a lot of things. We just felt very good about him as, not only a player in terms of ability, but as a person. And we thought it was the right fit for us, and we felt good about it, and are excited to see how he does going forward.
Mike Maccagnan, the Jets GM, joining us here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Worked in the NFL since 1990, so you've been around a while. So I'm curious with this question. You have the college season where you see the players actually on the field playing football, and then you have the combine, then you have the pro day, and you have the individual workouts and such. How many times, or what's more happens more in shorts and T-shirt, that a guy grades himself down or helps himself in the draft as compared to the actual play on the field during the season?
Yeah, I think really, Mike, when you go through this, there's so many, I think people, when they look at our process, we start off with these guys literally, and in about 2 or 3 weeks from now, I will be sitting in a big ballroom down in Florida, hotel, literally talking at our National Football Scouting Combine, not the actual Indy Combine, but like the scouting service we belong to, and they will more or less present all the draftable players, and we'll start our process for next year literally in 2 weeks. But as you go through this whole thing, I think, Mike, the biggest thing I think is, the film is what we probably put the most emphasis on, and that's, I think everybody in the league would probably agree with that. But as you go forward, you obviously go to the schools, you gather a lot of information on these players, from a personality and standpoint, because again, you're investing in a person basically when it's all said and done. But the live exposure is extremely important because, again, when you're looking at colleges, there's different levels of competition from 1, 2, and 3, and there's different levels of competition within different conferences. So that gives you an ability to kind of evaluate the players. So you watch the tape, you evaluate the tape, you go out to see them live to get kind of a measure of how they're performing. You see them play live in games. You get to the all-star games. In the all-star games, you see them in another environment where it's a little different than college. They're in a new environment. You get a chance to see them work against other players. So that gives us a good way to measure them. Also gives us access to them to actually talk to them and start to get a feel for them from a personality standpoint, which at that point in time, we've already talked to many people about these kids at the school. We get to the all-star games, our first chance to kind of get with these guys in a lot of cases face-to-face and get a chance to interact with them and get a feel, either confirm or maybe get different feels for what we've been told about them. So that gives you the live exposure physically and the live exposure from a personality standpoint. You go to the combine, which again is our big, we give them physicals, we measure them, we test them, we put them through a series of tests, we interview them, we get, again, a very smaller window, only 15 minutes at the combine. But again, it's still sort of speed dating. You get a chance to feel for them there. It's still an important part. And again, part of this business is, judging their ability, obviously subjectively off a tape, but the other part is measuring it in terms of testing ability, and that gives you some ability, which kind of helps you compare them. And then as you go forward to the college all-star, after the combine, you go to the pro days where you get a chance to spend a day with these guys. Sometimes you can take them out for dinner before or after. You definitely, if you go in there, you have a personal workout with them. Sometimes separate from the pro day, you get a chance to spend a day with them or time with them in the film room, talk to them, interact with them. Again, talk to people at the school about them. And eventually, when you get to April, you usually have your 30 visit where you bring them into your facility for a day. Again, another environment where you're just trying to gather as much information and feel for them as possible. So the physical part of the shorts and the T-shirts and the workout part, yes, that's part of it. It helps sort of reconfirm what we've sort of evaluated off of tape. I would say majority of our evaluation is based off of tape, and that's kind of how it's done. But there's a lot of other pieces of data we bring in and exposures we bring in to kind of get a feel for what these guys are and try to put a value on them and try to project their how they're going to do and the risk involved with that and the potential return of if they can fulfill their potential. So I know it's probably a long answer, but that's kind of
a little bit
of a synopsis of kind of what and as I said, it's literally a year-round process. We will literally be in a meeting with all the scouts in about 2 weeks going over all next year's guys. So.
Well, look, the idea of Darnold being there is just one of a really interesting quarterback room for the Jets now. As Jets GM Mike Maccagnan is with us, you have Josh McCown there, who's the ultimate guy you'd want the young quarterbacks to learn from, and Teddy Bridgewater looks like he's finally getting healthy, and we'll see how that all transpires with how these guys may play out. I do want to ask you about your third-round selection. He was one of my most interesting guys in the entire draft. For people that don't know, he's a defensive tackle, Nathan Shepard, out of Fort Hays State. He's from Canada. He started out at Simon Fraser College. Now, Simon Fraser College and all Canadian scholarships don't give full scholarships. Yep. So if you don't have money to sustain yourself, you can't go to school. So he ran out of money. He couldn't continue there, took some odd jobs, finally found his way to Fort Hays State. He's 6'4", 315 pounds as a defensive lineman. Boy, as a specimen, Mike, he looks as good as anybody possibly could. What intrigued you the most about this kid?
He was a kid that our scouts had identified. They got him from the combine and then the initial list. They went in there, they evaluated him, they liked him, they gave him draftable grades. Obviously, Fort Hays State, for those of you who don't know, it's sort of in the middle of Kansas. If I remember, right. I was there many years ago, and it's not the easiest place to get to, but it's a very pretty drive going out there from which if you're coming from the east or coming from the west. But it's obviously a lower level competition school, and I kind of knew about him before we went to the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl is where he really, I think, had the ability to really sort of showcase his ability and his talents. I thought he showed very well there. It was actually unfortunate that he wasn't able to play in the game because that would have been another good piece of exposure on him. But, to a certain degree, since he didn't, sometimes maybe that leaves a little bit more of a question on him. So that kind of helps you kind of get him in a spot where you feel pretty good about the risk and return in the third round. But again, he went down there, showed very well against good some of the better competition in college football, and of course went to the combine and reconfirmed all his ability from a physical standpoint, testing standpoint. We actually sent our coach out to the pro day with him and spent time with him with our scouts. Brought him in for a visit also. But the neat thing about him was he's a little bit older. He's about 24 and a half. He obviously took a much different path to where he is today. But again, it was sort of a testament to his character, perseverance, and the fact that he had a dream and a vision of what he wanted to do with his life, and persevered through it, worked, and was probably very mature and really stayed focused on what he wanted. Didn't go to maybe a big time college in terms of exposure, but I tell people all the time, it doesn't really matter what level of competition it is. We've cast such a wide net with all 32 teams. We'll find guys, and but he's a guy we're very excited about. We do think there's, he does have a lot of ability. I think there's still areas of his game he needs to improve upon, and considering where he came from in terms of his facility and resources as opposed to a much larger school, we still think there's a lot of potential that's still to be tapped in him. So we're quite excited about him, and he's one of the guys. Again, we were kind of excited to get him in the third round. We thought that was a good spot for him, and we'll see how he does going forward. But he's a good story and a great person, so we're kind of excited to see what he does.
He certainly is. From Canada to Kansas to the Big Apple, why the draft is so great. Jets GM Mike Maccagnan with us. Mike, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you, guys. Anytime I can help you guys, let me know.
Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Bobby. Bobby, the basketball boy, they called him. Bobby wanted to go pro someday, so he was always out in the driveway shooting hoops. But one day, his mom came out and told him, "Hey, your wife wants you to take out the trash." His mom was visiting, and Bobby was a grown man. He had kind of missed his window. Plus, no one had ever seen him actually make a basket. But on the other hand, Bobby had heard how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. So it was all good.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. And let me be clear, if you get a player with Calais Campbell's ability, J.J. Watt's motor, and Von Miller's speed,
wow,
you have drafted the greatest Hall of Famer in the history of the world.
You're not kidding.
There is no way around that one, and that's the player that our next guest says he wants to be, that guy, Marcus Davenport, the Saints defensive end. They traded a first-round pick to get him, 14th overall, and we're delighted to be joined now by Marcus Davenport. Marcus, congratulations on being drafted by the Saints. Were you surprised that the Saints traded a number one pick to get you?
Thank you. And, a little bit.
Yeah, I remember when they traded up there on the broadcast, you guys were talking about when you trade up that much, it's either mostly for a quarterback or it's going to be for someone like a pass rusher, which is exactly what Marcus said they're hoping to get out of in New Orleans. Marcus, how much conversation did you have with the Saints leading up to the draft?
I had talked to them a couple times, different meetings, and, I didn't necessarily think that it would entail so much.
So who did you think was going to be a team that might reach out and grab you?
I don't know. There's so many possibilities. That was the only scary part. I didn't necessarily know who had won me at what position, and it was kind of based on the QBs and availability.
Marcus, coming from a small school, when you went to the Senior Bowl full of some of the top-rated players, what was your thought process going into that, going with the bigger conference players?
How would I say? So, I wouldn't even call it small, kind of young, but it was more or less just go in there and play. At a certain point I had to realize it's just football, so, and plus I do way better if I just have fun.
Well, no pressure. Just let it cut loose there. You're only the second player ever drafted by the UTSA Roadrunners. They've been playing football since 2011. The other was a 6th-round pick, tight end David Morgan in 2016. For those that don't know your story, Marcus, fill us in a little bit. You're an interesting guy. You write poetry. You journal a lot. And you really had to find ways to gain weight. I mean, you had to set your clock to sort of eat just to get yourself up to a weight level that might get you drafted, right?
Yeah, it was eating more consistently. But by the time I started working out so much where I just had to eat, it was any time I thought about eating, I just ate. And I would get 2 and just eat more and more and more.
Are you still there now? Is it something that you're still eating more than a few meals a day? Do you want to? Is this to keep your weight up, or do you want to get heavier and bigger before the season starts?
Honestly, I just want to get stronger. So I know with hitting the weight room, doing all that kind of stuff, I'll add more good mass. So that's the plan.
Well, the plan also is for you to help the Saints with the sacking department. They were tied for 7th last year. Marcus Davenport, 14th overall selection. What have the Saints told you about what they expect from you going forward and what they want, how they want to use you?
They expect me to be able to come in, take coaching, and develop as a player. I have a lot of great players on the team that I'm able to look up to, and I can use them for their mental roles and develop my skills and get better.
In watching you play, I've seen you stand up rush, seen you put your hand down and rush, seen you rush from the inside, seen you drop off into coverage. What do you prefer to do? What's the best way you like to play?
I always thought that was kind of funny. I just prefer to play. So
that's a really good answer, by the way, Marcus. That was a really good answer.
It's just whatever they actually needed me to do. I just didn't want to miss the field.
So going into now the NFL, coming from a smaller school, what is the biggest thing in your mind you need to work on to have success early on in your career?
I just need to get with the vet, learn the ropes, develop a consistent routine that enables me to not only recover, but to increase what I already have. And then just hitting the books, I'm trying to know this whole thing inside and out. That way, technical part is the only thing I really need to work on.
And once you get the technical side of it, it just starts to flow naturally, and that's usually when you play your best. Hey, Marcus, we appreciate you being with us. Thanks a lot, and best of luck this rookie season with New Orleans, okay?
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you. Thank you.
So he's a guy, he's 6'5", about 265, and when you watch him rush, he uses what he has well. He has long arms, and he does a nice job. He bull rushes more than you think.
Yeah.
Because he gets his arms extended.
Sneaky strong.
He really is. Has pretty good leverage for a tall guy like that, but then he plays off of it well, and that's always something that defensive linemen, there's two things I look for, is the biggest weakness of defensive linemen, and it goes for interior and pass rushers as well, is hand play. Coming out of college, I think Ndamukong Suh is one of the best hand play defensive linemen I've ever seen come into the league when it's something that you need to work on a lot. And then the next thing is, especially the top picks, they have a lot of success in college, which means a lot of times it's their first move that works. One of the first things they're going to learn is their first move is going to get stifled in the NFL, and they have to work on a counter. Whatever that counter is, they have to be ready instantly with another move, and that's something that guys who had success in college have to learn pretty quickly. It's a different ball game. Obviously, it's a different ball game, but what he can do in seeing how teams, and again, I keep using years ago the Giants in that NASCAR package where you're seeing even rush ends, outside linebacker type, those guys, 4 of those guys on the field when you're getting into nickel and dime situations, and that's what can happen. Guys in the 260s lining up on the inside because you want your best pass rushers out there in passing situations. It's something he's done, again, inside, outside, hand up, hand down. I've seen him cover backs on a wheel route.
Right.
So he's a very athletic guy and versatile guy who I think has the right idea. Improve on your strength. And as I tweeted out after the draft, get to know your playbook. The sooner you know where to line up in your responsibility, the quicker you can just kind of let yourself go and play ball.
Well, it is interesting how the Saints have sort of reimagined themselves. Look, they hit home runs on their first 4 draft picks last year, and it paid great dividends. But the Saints, for all those years, those 3 straight years where they missed the playoffs, and even before that when they were in the postseason and winning Super Bowls and getting in there, it was all about Drew Brees and the offense. Well, what they've done, Dennis Allen has come over and done a great job on the defensive side. They've become a stalwart defensive team last year, and they're clearly going back in that direction by trading next year's first to get Marcus Davenport. Then they go Trey Quinn, the wide receiver out of Central Florida. But then a couple of their next picks are, again, offensive linemen. They got Rick Leonard, the offensive tackle out of Florida State. And they made a really interesting choice in the 7th round with Will Clapp, the center out of LSU, 6'5", 311 pounds. He was a permanent team captain. His father was also a permanent team captain at LSU. They're the only father-son combination to ever have permanent captain status at LSU. But it just shows you how the Saints have reimagined what they feel like they need to be. That, they can throw it all over the yard still with Drew Brees, but they have an excellent running game now with the two-headed monster of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, and now they've got a defense that can back them up. So the Saints are all in for the next couple of years.
They are.
As are Minnesota.
And with the Saints, and then you put on this guy, again, from a small college, there's going to be high expectations, not only going in the first round, but the amount of spots they jumped and what they gave up. sometimes it's unfair, but that's just the way it is. Doesn't matter if it's fair or unfair. It is what it is the expectations are going to be very high for this kid to come in and produce right away.
So just gut reaction real quickly because we got to go to break. Obviously, the Eagles are the gold standard right now in football in the NFC.
Right.
Saints-Vikings more likely to get there in the end and fight Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, I think for the Vikings, you look at their defense. For the Saints, you look at their offense. But I like the way the Saints' defense has been coming along. Yeah. So I may lean toward them, even though Minnesota has the better defense.
And then there's the Rams and all the things they've done. I mean, there are 3 teams that have said, hey, we're all in to try and dethrone Philadelphia. And 2 of them are going to be very disappointed. There's no question about it. That's the way it goes.
It's Golic and Wingo.
Do you know what I guarantee you is going to happen when we go to break? Yeah. I'm going to punch you in the face.
Use your words, not your fist.
Okay. No, I'm using my fist.
Use your feelings.
Trey is a dead man.
Say what you want. 5 for 8, 0 for 4.
You know what I can
Coming
do?
up, a clarification that made things more confusing. And Mike will speak, which will probably make things even more confusing.
Trey, you have a 10-second head start. Run. I don't think you can get too far in 10 seconds. Nice music choice, so. Cliff. Nice music choice.
Cliff
Sports
is the
Center.
Best.
Brought to you by Werner. For you pros out there, next week is OSHA Safety Stand Down, and we've teamed up with Werner to take a time out to learn about ladder and fall protection safety. Remember, falls are preventable. Go to WernerStandDown.com to learn more. That's WernerStandDown.com.
All right, we continue with Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. And, I would need a lot more than a 10-second head start. That's clear. Your get-off is surprisingly good for a 55-year-old with type 2 diabetes. I just want to throw that out there.
Those good times, even for the lineman, you're talking about in the 1/8 and 1.8, 1.7 second area. So that's what you got to get.
What were you at?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't run the 40 at the combine because I had my shoulder operated. And before that, the time I ran a 40 before that in high school, as the coaches were walking,
story of all time.
Coaches were walking down to 40 yards. I moved up 5 yards, so I ran a 35-yard dash in 4.7.
And people were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, and that's the number that went out.
think about that. How recruitment has changed, where you could literally get away with that.
Exactly.
And now there'd be like 800 cameras.
I know.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's great.
That is one of the greatest stories of all time.
So much fun.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we played this clip earlier today from Andrew Brandt and the Business of Sports podcast. Andrew, one of the great follows on Twitter. He has the Brandt Twitter filter.
Yeah.
Where he'll tell you, he'll quote something in the NFL, he'll tell you what they're actually saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's a tremendous follow. You should follow him. But he had the agent for Baker Mayfield on his podcast. And he said in that podcast, well, should we just play it?
Yeah.
This is what Jack Mills, Baker Mayfield's agent, said about the possibility of another team maybe trying to jump up and get Baker.
We had another team, which are going to surprise you. Another team had said, you may get a big surprise on draft day at number 2 if he's available. And it was the Patriots.
Wow. To get up to number 2.
And we thought, yeah. They had traded, they had 23 and they had 31 and they had 2 seconds. I don't know. We thought, boy, that's going to be a heck of a move to get up that high from where they are.
Right.
And of course, he wasn't available, so nothing. We never knew if that was a reality or not.
So he throws it out there, and then at the very end he said, well, we never really knew if it was a reality or not. It sounded like he wanted to get it out there just to get it out there.
I don't think it was.
It's what I heard.
Listen, I know you, me, and Jeff Saturday was in here. We played this before. None of us believed it was ever going to be a reality, trading those 2 draft picks and maybe those 2 second-rounders and move up to 2 to take Baker Mayfield. No, there's no way I believe that was going to happen. I am so interested to see which of these 5 quarterbacks. And again, you're going to have to give it years. Even if 1 or 2 of them, and they'll probably, a number of them may play this year, depends on when, but you can't judge it off this year. The most notably Jared Goff, what he did his rookie year to his second year. So you have to give it a few years to marinate and see where they're going to go. I'm so interested to see 5 years from now when we do if you did this quarterback draft again, how would you draft them, and what order would you draft them? So I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Actually, that's fascinating if you just go back to 2016 when Goff went 1 and Wentz went 2.
Yeah.
2 seasons removed, would you still go Goff 1 and Wentz 2, or would you go Wentz 1 and Goff 2?
Man.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a wrong answer there.
I don't either. You could make an argument for both, without a doubt. And you know what? That's a good thing.
Yes.
When you're talking in a positive way, it would be different if you're talking in a negative way. I don't care who you took; they were all bad, both bad. Here, you're not. They're both really good, and now you have one, unfortunately, coming off a major knee injury in Carson Wentz. But you're in pretty good shape when you can say either one you can make an argument for. Let's see what that order is 4 or 5 years from now when these first-rounder quarterbacks, rookie contracts are up in 5 years. Again, because it's 4 years and the team option year, so 4 to 5 years, what we're thinking about all of them. So that's what I'm interested to see. That's put everything into play. Yeah. Where you're playing, injuries involved, how the team is around you, so many factors involved.
And to your point about Goff, it speaks to who he's learning from.
Right.
I mean, look at the coaching change and the coaching regime in L.A. from where Goff was his rookie year to what he was working with his second year. People forget about that. They're just like, oh, Goff got better. Well, yeah.
There's a reason for it.
He got better because the people around him were better.
Right,
The people that were telling him what to do were better. The athletes around him were better. That is the significant part of this equation when you look at quarterbacks specifically that people don't register because 50% of these guys are probably going to be a bust.
Right.
I mean, 2.5 if you're going by the over-under, love it or shove it odds or whatever. And that's just the way it is. And so many of these things depend on situation and who they're learning from, who's in that quarterback room with them, who's their position coach, who are the skill sets guys around them. It's not just about the guy. It's about all the guys around the guy that really determine it one way or the other.
And then when that player hits their comfort level, when they have that playbook down and things like that, and that's a lot goes into it. That's why you have to give it some time and you can't just judge it off a rookie year.
And that's why you can never get comfortable with betting about poop. Because there's never a comfort level for that. And our good friend Aaron Goldhammer is going through that process right now. Again, the guy in Philadelphia that inspired him, he just scooped it right off the street and ate it.
Just eat it and be done with it.
Yeah, I think you're overthinking this thing. It may make you sick just thinking about it. But that's for another day. No more poop talk.
Nope.
Today. Happy poop.